So here talking about the IMF, as you know, the International Monetary Fund was organized in 1949, and it promotes international monetary cooperation for the purpose of facilitating the expansion and balanced growth of international trade. It's gotten a bad press reputation that it's trying to put down the growth of international trade. Don't know how that happens here, because it usually does the opposite. It's, of course, the way in which they do that, which has become, in the eyes of many, a bit controversial. Basically, what they try to do is promote exchange rate stability. And they do this through a multilateral system of payments and try to make its resources available to its members who are experiencing balance of payments difficulties. So at the moment, I think, ironically, the United States would be one of the best candidates for the IMF in terms of helping them with the quota system. An SDR, a special drawing right, is a special asset which the International Monetary Fund created to increase international reserves. Basically, what the drawing rights try to do is allow the member organizations, particularly when there was not enough gold to go around, to have access to funds that they wouldn't have otherwise. In other words, get access to reserves, get access to cheap money. Basically, the IMF started out with fixed exchange rates, but now allows countries to choose how fixed or flexible they want their exchange rates to be. Personally, I consider this to be one of the most positive additions to the IMF protocols that they've instigated. The euro, for example, is a common currency that's been adopted in 12 of the 15 members of the European Union. England, Sweden, and Denmark have not adopted it. Probably all three would qualify, but have not been able to swing that over as far as the voter capacity is. Just a short note on that: if the British pound, in other words, if England were to become a part of the European currency union using the euro, then there would be a significant competition in the world for the reserves of the euros versus the dollars. Until that happens, there's just simply not the volume of euros to go around, which is going to make it a competitive reserve to the dollar. I know yesterday in the airplane, this guy said, "Oh yeah, the United States has lost its position as the leading currency in the world." I wonder where these statements really come from. That's just far from the truth. The dollar remains the currency, as is pointed out in your textbook here, the leader of the IMF. In order for the Chinese yuan to be one of the most influential currencies of the world, it will have to strengthen its institutions and regulatory structure and in the trading capacity of its banks and other financial institutions. Now, like I mentioned, we have seen them trying to get inflows into being the regulatory bank bodies of countries like Africa and, of course, of the ASEAN markets, the ASEAN Free Trade Association. At the same point in time, the reserves that they hold, in other words, the dollars that they hold, are at a relatively low price. Do they want the dollar to rise? Well, that would increase their reserve structure. That would make them, if the dollar were to rise, that would make them basically a financial player. This is where it gets sticky, because if the dollar were to rise, the yuan, which is kind of pegged, and I say kind of pegged, it's not directly pegged, but it's kind of, they call this a variable pegging. kind of at the discretion of the Chinese government as to how much it's pegged at any given point in time. If the dollar were to rise, that would increase the Chinese prices themselves. Their yuan would have to rise according to this. Yes, they would do better in the banking world here. They could become a regulatory structure in the banking world, but they would endanger an exodus of Chinese products being bought at cheaper prices, and that would cause the potential civil unrest that I mentioned in previous videos here. I don't see this happening anytime soon. I think the best thing that can happen is that the Fed maintain a low policy.